Okay. Well, I can just get started. I mean, with a smaller group, we can just keep it casual. I don't, if you guys have questions, we can just make it more of a conversation than a really strict presentation. If that sounds good to everybody. I'm going to just start. My name's Hannah. I'm the founder of Bangs. I know a lot of you guys, but for those who don't know, thank you for coming. I really appreciate your time and listening to the Bangs story. I'm going to pass around this sheet if you're interested in getting emails about Bangs and our nonprofit partners. We send out a newsletter like once a month, and you can just put your name on here. And I'll just pick it up at the end of the presentation. So my thought was to ask, what is Bangs, and see if anybody knew the answer to that question, but I know this half of the room. So I guess I'll leave that question out, and I'll just go ahead and tell you guys about what Bangs is. So Bangs is a social enterprise that invests in nonprofits, and the model that we use is for each color to represent a different cause and nonprofit. So when you buy a pair, 20% of the proceeds is invested to a different organization. You can see up here we have a link or like a little arrow from the color to the logo of the nonprofit. And all of those, I'm going to go into detail about them in a little bit, but we really specially chose all of those because they have a very strict focus on sustainable development. And I've heard that word. I've been kind of sitting up here sending emails and listening, and in just the time period I've been in this room, I've heard the word sustainable probably 10 times. And it's a really cool thing for me because Jess and I were talking about this on the way up here. A lot of times when I start with these presentations, I'll say, does anybody know what sustainability means? And I'll get one or two hands raised. And as I was reviewing my presentation last night, I said, I'm at UNC, I probably don't need to explain what sustainability is. And the first thing I see when I walk in here, it's like, welcome to the Center for Social Entrepreneurship. And I was like, oh, I'm home. It's cool to be in a community where people just get it. So I'm not going to go into my big spiel about sustainability, but each one of these nonprofits really understands the idea of a long-term difference, not funneling resources, putting a Band-Aid over something. They focus on empowering people, giving them tools to develop themselves, and moving away from handout methodology to really fuel long-term positive change. So let me ask you guys a question. How many of you, and you can just raise your hand, own more than one pair of shoes? We got to put both hands up. Bangs really recognizes this fact. So we acknowledge that we live in a consumer society. People buy shoes. People don't just buy some shoes. People buy a lot of shoes. I would be willing to even ask who owns more than 5 pairs of shoes. I bet a lot of you guys. Well, we won't call anyone out, though. And Bangs acknowledges this fact, but we also acknowledge the fact that people are intrinsically good and that people really want to make a difference. I've got another question. How many of you guys over the past month have done something that could fit in the category of charitable? So whether it's volunteering or buying something, I would be willing to bet everybody in this room has done something for somebody that was charitable and that they didn't need to do, but they did it because it was good and it was the right thing to do. So Bangs take these two facts. We live in a consumer society where people not only buy some shoes, they buy a lot of shoes, and that people are intrinsically good and not only want to do good, but that they look for it. They look for opportunities. And so we provide an opportunity for someone to buy a good that they're going to buy anyway, and they're going to buy multiple of them. And we integrate, give back to the nonprofit space in a sustainable way already into that purchase. And so that's the Bangs model. So you're standing on issues to help others stand on their own. So the fun part, let's talk about the nonprofits. So when you buy blue Bangs, they represent clean water and invest in an organization called Drop in the Bucket. Drop in the Bucket was started by John and Stacy Travis. They live out in LA, and they had no background in the nonprofit community. They actually have a background in the music industry, but they traveled to Africa with a group of their friends, and they were absolutely horrified by the clean water crisis and what it looks like in reality. And the fact that there are people on this planet, I'm sitting here with my bottle of water. I took a 10-minute shower this morning, no big deal. I mean, there are people that live on the same planet that do not have access to a basic human need, which affects everything in life. Education becomes a luxury. Any kind of social development becomes a luxury, and you have to shift from just staying alive. And so Drop in the Bucket said, we're not going to stand for this. John and Stacy Travis said, we're going to find a way to help bring clean water to people who don't have access to it. So they threw a dinner party, and they invited all their music friends, and they charged $1,000 a plate. and people bought it because people want to do good. And so they started raising all this money, and then they went to Africa and they started building wells, and in 7 years of Drop in the Bucket's conception, they have built 200,000 wells, or excuse me, they've brought water to 200,000 people, which is just amazing. You think about what two people's idea can actually do. Do we want to take a break for this really quickly?
If you guys want to do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
We apologize for
That's okay. Pizza. Who needs to apologize for pizza?
Yeah, there's 2 cheese and there's 1 pepperoni.
There's a trash can on the side.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
So this blue one goes, the purpose for this blue one goes to this one. So different car goes to the different organization.
That's right. This probably works out better than Domino's.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
The pizza's probably better.
I think the pizza is actually much higher quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks pretty good.
Does anyone else want to try? Poor Domino's. They tried so hard.
So I get the rest of Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So just to be clear, just to reiterate, so right now the way the Bangs model is working is that we correlate colors to causes and then give 20% of the net profits to a different organization. But I'll pass some of these around, and you'll notice on the outside of every pair of shoes there's an icon that represents what cause you're supporting. And as we continue to expand, we're going to shift from the color representing the cause to the icon. So you'll see this icon on maybe a leopard print pair of shoes, or just so we can expand the look without having to add on additional nonprofits, because we're really happy with the 6 that we have. So I'll just pass some of these around. You guys can just touch them and see what they look like. So Drop in the Bucket. If you buy blue Bangs, you invest in clean water, and your money goes to Drop in the Bucket. Khaki Bangs. When you buy Khaki Bangs, you're investing in ending hunger through Choice Humanitarian. And Choice Humanitarian is an amazing organization. We actually had the pleasure of having a conference call with them last night. We have a really amazing campus team, or campus program, where we recruit people across the country to represent the brand, talk about the nonprofits, wear the shoes, and Jessica is our Bank ambassador. You'll see here. Hello, Jess. And we get everybody on the phone. We had over 20 people on the call last night with the Director of Development from Choice, just an absolutely inspiring woman. But my really favorite thing about Choice Humanitarian is that they really understand what cultural context means, and that they don't implement programs without understanding what's going on in the community before they just kind of start throwing solutions. And the best way that I like to think about it is, so let's say that this group decided we wanted to, we noticed a problem in Carborough, and we said, we're going to solve this problem. It's ridiculous that this is happening in our town where we live. We're going to solve it. We're going to give ourselves 3 years. We're going to write a program. Success. We find success. We solve the problem. We're so successful that we want to implement this program to other communities that have similar problems around the country. So what do? We take the program, we lift it up, and we just send it over to LA. And we're like, it's going to work over there because it worked over here. But if you look at the people, the difference between the type of people that are in Carborough and the type of people that are in LA, and all the social surroundings that are around the community, and assumptions and what's usual and what's acceptable, I would be willing to bet that it's impossible for a program that's successful in Carborough to be successful in LA, just because of the social surroundings the culture around the community. And Choice Humanitarian is the master of this. I would be willing to say that they really, really understand this idea of cultural context and making sure that the community, they have a really great understanding of the community before they start implementing programs. And I've really learned a lot just by having communication with their leaders, and feel lucky we get to work with them. Their project sites are all over the world. They've got a great expedition program if you're looking for if you want to get involved and travel. They're a great organization to go to and work with, and you'll learn a lot. When you buy green bangs, you invest in development through Soul Foundation. And the Soul Foundation is just an amazing story in itself. Started by a 23-year-old woman named Brooke Stern. She was traveling in Africa with her dad, had no intentions of ever starting a nonprofit. She gets to Uganda, to a city or a community called Bujagali Falls, and she is just blown away by the conditions and the people. And the thing that she pulls from it, from her entire experience, was that this community, the living conditions were, there was no food security, there was limited access to water, there was no understanding of how to leverage the resources you have to make more. And she also found that there was this yearning, this absolute willingness and hope for change and development, and she was like, I gotta do something about this. I have the resources, I have access to people, I have access, I know what to do. So she comes back to the United States, writes a plan, and then says, all right, I'm going to live in Bujagali Falls, Mom. See you later. 13 months, 23 years old, lives in Bujagali Falls alone as a member of the community. Again, she understood the cultural context. And then she started implementing programs, and they've been working for 3 or 4 years, have absolutely revolutionized Bujagali Falls. I'm super excited. I'm going to go next year. I get to visit their project site, which I'm so excited about. And the work that they've done has ended up translating to kind of like had the trickle-out effect. So they've brought up Bujagali Falls, they've developed them, and then that development has trickled down into surrounding areas, which is really amazing. And this is a picture from the Soul Shack. Love that one picture. So when you buy green bangs, you invest in development through the Soul Foundation. Red bangs represent disaster aid and partner with Global Dirt. Another really, you'll notice this is a theme, I have to say about all of them. Another amazing organization. They are based out of New Jersey. And just another great story how this organization came to be by Adam Marlatt is the founder. He was 23 when he started it, an ex-Marine. And he noticed that in areas affected by natural disaster, there is just chaos. But it's good chaos because there are people that just want to help. You've got the fire department, you've got the police department, you've got individuals, you've got volunteer organizations. Everybody's mobilizing and saying, I'm here, I've got arms, I've got legs, I've got water, I want to help, I want to make a difference. But if you think about what happens then, everybody's kind of going in their own directions, and if there's not somebody that's directing everybody, it ends up being counterproductive. And so Global Dirt said, we're not going to let that happen anymore. We are going to find a way to connect all of these moving pieces so that instead of moving in all these different directions, our efforts are moving as one. And so they've used technology in really amazing ways. I was able to visit their project site after Sandy hit in the Northeast, and the work that they did was absolutely inspiring. They reduced response time. So when I say response time, I mean like after a disaster hits, the area has to be canvassed to see if anyone's stuck in like a house or a car, and then pull people out. Who needs water, who doesn't have access to food, who doesn't have access to transportation. Just canvass the whole area and provide immediate relief. And they reduced that time from 6 days to 8 hours. And that's just like blows my mind. And when we think about that, I mean, that has a huge impact. That saves like multiple lives. And their programs are just amazing, great people. And when you buy black bangs, you're investing in education in the USA through Springboard Collaborative. Another, I'm sure you're surprised, amazing organization. Their story, again, a relatively young individual noticed something that he thought was unacceptable and then made a plan to change it. So he taught, Alejandro, the founder, worked in Teach for America for 2 years, and he, like many teachers, noticed that there's a huge gap in the summer months between low-income families and then middle to high-income families. So you have people that start at first grade, everyone's on the same level, you finish first grade in May, and then in that gap, the middle to high-income families maybe support their students better through reading, or that they provide more of an infrastructure, or they just have the tools to push students to continue learning, and you just don't see that as much. So when school starts back up in that following August, people are uneven. And a lot of organizations, a lot of policymakers say it doesn't matter where kids start, it's up to the teachers to get people to the same level by the time school ends. And Alejandro said, that is absurd. Like, that's impossible. What we need to do is we need to get everybody on the same page. So he said, all right, we're changing the conversation. We're getting students, teachers, and parents into the room together, and we're going to make everybody work together and provide the tools and get everybody excited about closing the summer reading gap, and they've done it. And for the past couple of years, they've been working with schools in Philadelphia, have just, absolutely changed the results of students during the summer months and then increasing, so it's an exponential, again, that snowball effect. And, I really hope that we can see their programs implemented all around the country because, they're amazing. And I love that picture, too. So when you buy Black Bangs, you invest in education in the USA through Springboard Collaborative. And our final color is white, and so when you buy white banks, you're investing in financial empowerment through Kiva. And Kiva is by far our biggest organization. A lot of the other ones that we work with have a staff of anywhere from 4 to 10 people, and they're a really big organization based out of San Francisco. How many of you guys have heard of Kiva? Okay, beautiful. Should have known. And they're amazing. I love working with them. They're our biggest nonprofit, that our partner, but they also provide a lot of support, and they also believe in the power of social business, so it's a really mutual beneficial relationship. And so when you buy white bangs, we take the portion of profits from that, and then we invest in other entrepreneurs. So those are our colors right now. We've been in business for about a year, so this is our initial 6 colors and our initial 6 causes and nonprofits. But as I said before, hopefully as we continue to expand the design of the shoes, we'll maintain these relationships and we'll be able to funnel more meaningful investments. So back to the bangs model. So what we do is we sell shoes, providing people with an opportunity to invest in the nonprofits through an everyday retail purchase. And the idea is that once the company expands, we'll be able to provide a very reliable revenue stream. So a lot of these nonprofits, they are constantly fundraising, constantly focusing on where do we get our next source of income from, who's going to write the next grant, how do we bring in more money. And it takes away from energy that could be placed on furthering their development and furthering their programs. And so if we can scale bangs and create a reliable revenue stream for these organizations, it would just be amazing. And then on top of that, this point's my favorite, is that we would be investing in long-term sustainable development and not handouts. And I think that's the most important thing that bangs symbolizes. And if that's the only thing you take from this presentation, then I think I did okay. So I do have ways to get involved. Like I said, we have the UNC Banks Ambassador here, and she organized this and got this lovely pizza for us. Thank you, Jess. And if you want to get involved with the Banks UNC team, this is her email address. Another way to get involved is, of course, to buy the shoes. And if you're interested in throwing a Bangs bash, or we do fundraisers with other organizations where we not only invest in our nonprofits, but we invest in an organization that's done the fundraiser. And you can email this address to find out more information about that. And then I have the second half of a presentation that I'll do if I have more time. I've kind of segmented it into the amount of time we have. But I'll break right now and ask you guys how many questions, and then I can speak to those. And if not, then I can just keep on rolling.
I just want to say real quick for the UNC team, we are in need of business school team members. So if you're interested, we could really use some account management people. It'd be great.
And that's just because
Yeah.
not interested in.
Where do you sell those right now?
They are sold online, and they're also sold in Chapel Hill. You can get them at Townsend Bertram and Company. But we've gotten placed in retail from Charleston up to Boston, and then we just picked up a store on the West Coast and in Wisconsin. So we're expanding our distribution in 23 stores.
I have a question about the marketing of these shoes. So do you have any iconic characters, like a celebrity who use this one?
Like a
celebrity, so who have a lot of money and like.
We haven't been able to. I've been trying to get a hold of Ellen DeGeneres. She's a little harder to get in touch with. She's not answering my emails or my tweets. But that's on the list of things to do, and there are people you can pay to have that done. I mean, when I looked into that, it's like 20, they asked for like 20 grand, and then it's even, we can't guarantee it, but we'll try. So very clearly, we're not going to do that. We're just going to wear them around ourselves. And I think the Bangs marketing that we really are relying on, that I think up until this point has been pretty effective, is word of mouth. Our ambassador program has been relatively effective. I mean, we found through things like sharing social media, and that's another really effective way for people to get involved, and it's fast and it's easy, like putting on your Instagrams, like, who learned about Bangs today or whatever. I mean, those kind of things seem really simple to everybody, but it actually makes a huge difference for us. I mean, we found multiple ambassadors. We've gotten connected with multiple, like, graphic designers or, like, people that develop websites through social media, and it's all really helpful. But I think that that's going to be our main source of marketing. Especially for this kind of business model, it's hard to rationalize spending like tons of money on marketing and advertising when we bring revenue in. Like, shouldn't it be going more to the nonprofit? So that's just kind of an internal debate that I think the social entrepreneur will always have.
Where do you make these shoes?
They're made in China.
Oh, made in China.
Mm-hmm.
How are they made?
They're vulcanized canvas rubber, so they're made like cans or Keds or Vans or Converse.
So, how do you feel about the achievement? I think you said again and again the investment to the kind of the very good things are very good organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to retain the customer, so let the customer buy this one again and again, I think you have to inform them again and again through, for example, Facebook or email. I have no idea which is the effective one, but definitely I think the evaluation of the investment should be open to the customers, I think.
Right, and we try to be really transparent. I think that's a great point, because obviously there's a lot of organizations that do similar give back, but I think the thing that we do differently is transparency. I mean, it's like completely open. And we don't have anything on our website about that right now, but I think we're looking for ways to your point, continue explaining to the customer, look what your purchase helped us do. But we are a startup still, and we're trying to figure that out as well. If you have any suggestions, let me know.
It's very difficult. It is because this money will go to the NGO, but the activity of the NGO is very difficult to quantify. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the toms, it's very clear. So if I buy one, so one shoes will be provided to the small kids or someone, mm-hmm. and it clearly means to reduce one guy who doesn't have shoes. But if we buy this one, yeah, it might be a very good thing, but it's very difficult to quantify how how big the impact is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's really difficult to quantify, and we've been trying to figure out how to do that. I mean, so this took me, 20 minutes to describe how we're different. I mean, it's a constant battle, and I think we've been playing with different slogans. So one of the things we played with was change, not charity, because I think that's a really nice job of explaining the idea of sustainability and how we're not investing in resources, we're investing in people. But then, as it turns out, that was somebody else's slogan a couple years ago, so we don't want to get sued. So we're going to not use that one. But I think that you're right. We're looking at ways to connect directly to the consumer, how their impact is like coming out of the nonprofit. But it is tough, because this idea is so big and complex, and there's a lot of different pieces.
Thank you.
Are you all a nonprofit or a for-profit?
We're a registered LLC, so for-profit. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to show you guys a quick video. Do sound? Nope. My head looks really big.
Sound cable connected? Sound cable
Maybe
connected?
not. There. Is this sound cable right here?
Yes, yes.
There we go.
Hi, my name is Hannah Davis, and I'm the founder of Triggs-Matthews. In August of 2009, I traveled to Nantong City in China's eastern Jiangsu province to teach English. One of my friends, Stephen, bought these olive green shoes at an army surplus store and pointed out that the Chinese working class wore these specific shoes all over the country. I began to notice them around everywhere and realized that these fun, funky shoes would be awesome in the U.S. It wasn't until after my teaching contract was complete that I realized the potential in creating a connection between the shoes and an ideology I feel passionate about. The mission of Bangs is to raise awareness and funding for the nonprofits that we have that partners with. Each color represents
Might not be happening.
blue bangs represent clean water and partner with Drop in the Bucket. Green bangs represent development and partner with Soul Foundation. Red bangs represent disaster aid and partner with Local Dirt. Khaki bangs represent hunger and partner with Choice Humanitarian. White bangs represent financial empowerment and partner with Kiva. Black bangs represent education in the USA and partner with Springboard Collaborative. Bangs only partners with nonprofits that really understand the Bangs mission of moving away from handout methodology to giving people the tools to develop themselves. We focus on self-reliability, empowerment, and education through partnerships with local communities to really make a positive difference in the long term. The Bangs brand not only represents an important ideology, but those shoes are also really fun to wear. The colors are vibrant, the shoes are comfortable, and you can wear them with anything. We've got high tops, we've got low tops. They can be dressed up, they can be dressed down. They're the perfect everyday shoes. To find out more information on how to purchase Bang shoes and get involved, visit www.bangshoes.com.
Yay! Guys. So I don't know what we should do. I mean, I don't know what you guys want to hear about next. I can tell you a little bit about the story behind the brand and kind of how I came up with it. Does anybody else have any other questions or?
How did you choose the nonprofits?
So that was a really tough part about the development of the company. So I'm going to take a step back before I answer that question, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my personal background and then how we got to where we are now. So I graduated from Clemson in 2009. I have a political science degree and a minor in Mandarin, and I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I decided to teach English in China for a year. So I was in China, and I discovered these shoes. So this is the original Bangs shoe. I bought this from an army surplus store off the side of the road in China, and I took it to a factory and I said, hey, can you put Bangs on there? And can you put this little thing on here? Great. And I mean, you guys, you just might find this interesting. I have worn it, so it's really, you're done eating. So I came up with the idea for Bangs a year after I was done teaching English, and it wasn't like I don't have a business school degree. I wasn't a social entrepreneurship major. I just saw a shoe, I had an idea, and then came up with a plan and executed it. So the Chinese character for the word help is phonetically spelled B-A-N-G, which is where the name of the company comes from. And I chose the nonprofits during probably month 3 of development of the company, and I started with the Google, where everybody starts with everything, and I started looking up good nonprofits. But what is a good nonprofit? A lot of people look for things like low overhead or mission statement, and the things that I looked for was, number 1, focus on sustainability. Very clearly, they had to fit the Bangs mission. Do they work to empower individuals? Is there a focus on giving people tools to develop themselves and not throwing handouts at them? is that ingrained in the nonprofit's mission? So that's the first one. The second one that I looked for was relative size. So we wanted to work with an organization that would be a mutually beneficial partnership. We didn't want to either be so small that we weren't making an impact, or, I mean, that was really the only option at that point. And so we really looked for also people that I just kind of connected with and like to work with, because at the end of the day, I'm building relationships. And I needed to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, Jenna, what's going on? What's Soul doing? Did you get our donation check? Can I tell you about what Bangs is doing? And we'd like to help you guys more. Oh, you have this event? So I looked, those were the three big things. Very first, the biggest one clearly is that focus on sustainable development. The second thing was relative size, and then the third thing was, are they cool people? Are they fun to work with, and are they honest? And so once we checked all those boxes, then we started to build relationships. And you know, it's really organically. I was really careful to not present the relationship in a way where they had to do something in order to be partners with us. It was more like, I really want to work with you. I want to support what you're doing. Will you accept our money? And they said yes. And you know, we did. A lot of people were like, well, do you have them, you know, share your status on Facebook once a month, or do you have them? Do they have to send X amount of people to your website? And I'm like, well, no, that doesn't really make sense. It seems like it kind of defeats the purpose. And so organically, though, as the company has continued to grow, the nonprofits are proud to be associated with us. And so it's kind of it starts happening on its own, where I'll get online and I'll be like, oh, Soul shared that, or oh, cool, like they like to show that we are working together, and that's just a really cool feeling when they're proud to work with us as well. Did that answer your question? Any other?
I know Bangs is a fairly young company. You guys have been on the market for only 10 months. So what are some current challenges you're facing? I'm sure
there's a lot.
Yeah.
Which ones do you want? I think that your point is a really good one. That's a big obstacle for us, is connecting to the consumer in a fast, meaningful way. I wish this thing was working again. I want to show you guys something. I just maybe get your opinions. So, is it happening? I think it's, oh, there it is. Don't judge my messy laptop. So this is one of the things we've been working on, or I've been working on too. So back to your point, how do we connect to people in a really fast, meaningful way, who I'm not sitting there going, and then this, you know, if you just saw those shoes right there, and then you had 3 seconds to tell somebody about why Bangs is different, how do you do that? I don't know yet, but we've worked on this. So this would be like a poster next to the shoes, and this was in the PowerPoint as well, but this is a really new graphic. I mean, do you guys, what do you think about this? Does this, I'm just going to not even say anything. What do you think about it?
I like how it's simple and very, I like the 3 steps and like the 3 icons, and how it's pretty clear what Bangs is doing.
Based on what I told you guys today, does this embody what I said? Does anybody hate it? Anybody do? Get out.
Well, it doesn't surface any of the actual issues that you're investing in. It just talks about nonprofit partners. So I would prefer if you were less generic with that description of what the change is. You couldn't put all of them on one poster, but you can maybe highlight different ones on different posters.
Well, I was thinking about, because I agree with that, because this to me, I got talked into this. So I was like, nope, we need all the logos, and I had a graphic designer, and they're like, you don't get it, Hannah. Like, this isn't about what you want. This is about what the consumer understands quickly. So I'm like, okay. So this was to your, because that was the first thing I said, and so they said, all right, well, maybe we'll do something like this. So we would have that poster and then this next to it. And then this would be logo, their mission, how can I help? Logo, their mission, how can I help? With lots more information, so that if there's somebody that's going, this is really generic and it sounds like they just are full of it, then we'll have this next to it, and they can go, oh, okay, well, they really do know what they're talking about, and the nonprofits are really meaningful, and they all have great missions, and they are sustainable. So that's good. So that's what we're working on. I think that's our biggest obstacle, one of our biggest obstacles. Another is is getting the word out. I mean, it's difficult. You know, we do stuff like this, and I constantly have our social media creating content. But building awareness for a new brand is really tough. I mean, there's just a lot of hours that go into it. There's just things you can't do except for that only time can accomplish. And so it's tough when I'm like, just want it to work tomorrow. And so I think we're having issues with raising awareness for the brand, just the reality of how much work that you put into it. It's just a big obstacle. And then connecting to the consumer in a really fast, meaningful way, I think those are two really big ones.
I think in terms of this simplicity of the product, I think it works for the kind of making a community of customers. So if I see these shoes on the street, I can recognize, oh, he will support something. Sorry, I forget this color. But
I can't believe it.
But yeah, if I see this color, oh, he or she supports something like a disaster thing, or yeah, so they can recognize with each other. So I think that's a great point, because now, for example, Tom's has a lot of variation. So because of that, we cannot recognize which shoes is Tom's or not. If we see that this kind of logo, I can recognize, but it's a little bit difficult. But it's very, very simple. So I think if people want to know this one is Bang's shoes, I think it works very well, and it spreads very quickly, I think.
Oh, can I get that in writing? No, but I think to your point, that's something that I really do think we have. Our biggest strength is that when we get somebody who I have the time to sit down, or they research it, or if their friend tells them about it, we don't get a consumer, we get a member of our family, and it's a really cool feeling. So my sister is a junior at Western Carolina University, and she sends me this text message the other day, and she's like, my friend was walking down the street, and then she saw a pair of bangs, or I'm kind of butchering the story, I think, but the point was somebody rolled down the window and yelled out, I like your bangs. And the girl was like, what? And they were like, no, your shoes. And she was like, oh, thanks. And then they kept driving. But how many other products do you feel compelled to roll the window down and feel like it's okay to yell at someone because they're going to get it? You know, like bangs created that feeling between these two people that they already had something in common and they wanted to connect about it. And then they like vocalized it in a really funny way, you know. And my sister texted me that, and I was like, oh, that's just what I needed today, because I was feeling like down about, I wanted everything to be perfect, you know. But I think that's one of the strongest things we have going for us, is that we are building a community and a family, and we're not just like trying to get consumers.
Yeah, I wouldn't go too quickly to different designs, actually. I mean, compare this to Chucks, and people bought Chucks that were black and white, didn't need a new design, but because of the culture of the family thing behind it. So I think if you diversify your image too quickly and bangs become less recognizable because they're very distinct color and design, very simple, like Kate was saying, then you lose that recognition because people won't be able to have that same contact on the street.
That's just what I needed to hear, because we were looking at Soul Rebels today, and I was like, I need a million different colors and so many different styles, and things are going to work unless we have so many colors. But
right, and so I think you kind of lose a little bit of your differentiation, or at least your visual differentiation, from trying to replicate lots of different styles.
yeah.
And I think it's cool too to see, like, this is the original one, to see how directly it relates to the Chinese worker shoe. That's a really interesting part of the story.
Good guys.
So I got a question for you. I'm going to sound kind of like a jerk, but are the shoes sustainably produced themselves?
No, I think that doesn't sound like a jerk at all. I've gotten some jerk questions. That is not a jerk question. The shoes right now, our impact model doesn't integrate the sustainability of the shoes, but that's not to say that we're not working on it. You know, when I first came up with the idea, it was to build a solid and reliable revenue stream for the nonprofits, and then it was kind of like, oh, the shoes, it would be better if the shoes were sustainably made. So with that being said, you know, I've been communicating with the factory about, you know, recycled rubber and organic cotton and canvas, and, you know, we're making that switch slowly. So I really don't think, I think that's a great question. And another thing that I'm really excited about doing, So I was thinking about that point you just brought up, and I was like laying down, being like, all right, so we can do the shoelaces and the organic canvas and the recycled rubber, and then people are going to wear the shoes, and then they're going to invest in nonprofits, and then what? And then we're just going to throw them away. And I was so annoyed by that idea, because if we change the process to be sustainable, it needs to be the whole way around. So I was like, what can we do afterwards? So I've been talking to factories. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and so I went and I visited this factory, and I was like, what can you do with this after it's been worn? And they're like, what do you mean? It's a shoe. I said, well, rip it apart, let's melt down the rubber, let's build some stuff. And they were like, what? So with that being said, I looked on Etsy. People make earrings out of old tires, and people make and then I contacted all of our nonprofits, and I was like, what could you do with canvas if I sent you just a ton of canvas? And Jenna from Soul Foundation, the Green Shoes nonprofit, she says, we can make everything. She's like, send us canvas. So I'm thinking, to that point, how are they sustainably made, but then how does that come full circle? So I think my end goal is for that to be something that Bangs is able to do, where we can say, you buy the shoes and you know the products are sustainable, you make a purchase, you know your money is going to somewhere that's going to help somebody else, it's not just the bottom line. You're done with the shoes, you wear them out, you're sick of them, you want a new color, you send them somewhere, and then they are repurposed, and it's just the whole life cycle. But we are 11 months on the market, and I need to just take a step back.
So why don't you put some of that printed on the shoe? Like, what I'm thinking is, you see stand on these shoes, you got the whole backstory, and then you look inside and say made in China, like, uh-oh, this is just greenwashing. So,
Yeah.
But you're working towards a plan, obviously. I don't believe you're just trying to sell based on that sustainability slogan.
Yeah.
So print some of that in here next to made in China, but working towards sustainable
Yeah.
outcomes. Because that's a
That's a
risk to
really
your
good
brand.
idea.
The made in China, that simple term has so many connotations about lack of sustainability and worker oppression.
Mm-hmm.
You got to mitigate that somehow.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. I was thinking about that as well, because people ask where they made, and I was looking at Kashi, that cereal, and they have a commitment to excellence on the back. And the commitment to excellence was the most beautifully written thing ever, and I took a picture with my phone, and I was like, we need that, because basically they were saying, we have this heart and soul in our company, but the reality is that we're making a product that's already been produced, and we're fixing it. We want to fix it. We're trying to fix it actively, but it just takes time. I mean, to your point, I wanted to have these made in the USA. I looked into it. I called lots of people. I contacted, can we make these? And the industry isn't here. I mean, unless you're American Apparel, then no one's going to make you a run of 1,000 pairs of shoes. Like, oh, you want shoes? Well, you're going to have to buy 200,000, and they're going to be $50 a shoe. So that means at retail they're going to sell for $200. Are you going to pay $200 for that pair of shoes? No. I mean, it's just the reality of it. And so until the industry moves over here, then we make shoes where the rest of the world makes them. But that's not to say, I actually think that in the next 10 years it's going to move back over here, probably even sooner. And I'm on it. I'm surfing the web, where's that factory? I met with that factory that I said, tear this apart. They don't make shoes, they make bags or something. And I was like, would you guys consider making shoes if I told you I'd place an order? And they're like, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but potentially. So I think that's a good idea. I like that. I'm going to actually write it down.
You should just put it on you put more of your story on the
Yeah.
sole of the rubber. Because people like to look at the soles.
Yeah, no, and I think if we put something on the bottom of the rubber, that would mean changing the mold, and that's like a $30,000 investment. But we could print something on the inside, and that would be like a 1 cent.
Yes.
I like the second one better. Any other suggestions? Do you guys see anything that jumps out at you that could be better? Or anything that's not clear? Do we have Wi-Fi in here?
Yeah, there's a, go ahead.
Or I can do it on this
On the, yeah, if you switch to the,
right?
to the PC.
I'd like to show you guys the website.
So while you're doing that, I think Kay has been talking about Tom's a lot, which I agree is like your biggest competition. I think you need to differentiate the design a little bit. Not the shoe so much, but the advertising. It kind of feels a lot like Tom's, but it's a different shoe. when I look at the poster, you got a different slogan, which I like. It's not directly attacking Tom's. But you kept talking about not giving handouts,
Yeah,
which is like a dig at Tom, which I appreciate. But the graphic design is very similar to Tom's. And so if you were to see them both on the shelf, posters, you know, that you don't get that quick differentiation based on the image, you know. So I know you're making an investment in this current motif, but I think about that going forward.
Another thing, so I think, Kate, you talked about transparency, and I think that's really important for a successful company. And maybe on your website you can have like a chart or a graph or something saying like how much money you've raised already for each month.
That's what we've been trying to do that. And I think that that's a great idea. We were thinking like having, and you know how people have those thermometers and you fill it up, we were thinking having a shoe.
Yeah. And also I know that I'm also on the UNC Baines team, and then you allowed Jess and I, or like our team, to choose for Kiva which nonprofit, or I mean which.
That was just special for you guys.
But
Sure,
which,
my favorite.
right? Which entrepreneur do we want to support? And I think, and then Jess posted on Facebook like which ones we chose, and we've helped them succeed like, in achieving.
We paid off their loan.
We paid off their loan, and I think that is a tangible like accomplishment that we've done.
Yeah.
So like things like that. And about like Made in China, Jess and I, we were also at the Townsend Bertram company in Cairo a month ago, and people asked a lot about like where are the shoes made, and some people when they heard it's in China, they're like, oh, okay. And then, you know, like, you can tell that they were
Judgers.
Yeah, judgers.
You just don't understand.
Right, exactly. And then, like, some other people were like, yeah, definitely, because how else will you make money? Like, but I also think on your page, maybe you can write, like, yes, it's made in China, but how is our factory different from, like, because not all factories in China are the stereotypical.
No, and that's what's frustrating, because I sometimes want to be like, our factory is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the Google office or anything, but it's like kind of legit, you know. I mean, the people love going to work there. It's clean. It's a reliable job. It's, you know, there's like ping pong table. It's like a nice place. I mean, it's a repetitive motion. It's not like a super exciting job, but it provides a steady income. People support their families, and they choose to go into that building every day.
Have you like been to the factory?
I haven't been, but I've seen lots of videos of it, and I communicate with the woman that owns it, and I hope I get to go one day.
Yeah, like maybe she can take pictures or something that people can see.
We're not allowed to post them.
Oh.
We're not allowed to post the videos either. She can, I have a couple of pictures, but it's like the shoe and then there's like a hand in it, you know? And that's, we're just, they have really strict, and it's not because they're trying to hide anything. Well, I guess they kind of are, but it's about, they have the methods that they use. This specific factory is super, super innovative in China, and they don't want anyone to steal their ideas. So they've got really specific, cool ways of making shoes that nobody else has, and they're like crazy about. So I don't even know if I'd be allowed to go in it, but maybe one day.
I have different suggestions. So in the US, are there any industry they require a kind of the shoes as a uniform? In Japan, for example, nurse has to wear kind of provided shoes by the hospital. So I think lots of companies try to pursue their CSR strategy. I think, but the most difficult thing for them is try to align their strategy to the CSR thing. So, for example, if, for example, the garbage collectors has to wear the blue one, I think the garbage kind of, how can I say, the firing, I think they, how can I say, it's really, so if one industry have very bad impact for the water purification, I think they have a reason to buy this one and provide their employees to these shoes. It's a kind of sign for them to show respect to the nature. And
Yeah.
for example, the doctor wear something. No, not doctor. For example, teacher can wear the black one
Mhm.
for the line to the education investment.
Right.
So I think the corporate sponsorship is very important in that case because they buy maybe once a year, so very kind of stable income for
Yeah,
your company.
to that point, I think that's a really good idea. The only problem is that a lot of these shoes, this style is aimed at a lot of younger people. I think it's our target demographic, and and there's support in them. There's arch support. A lot of our target demographic will be like, Hannah, this is the most comfortable shoe in the world. I'm like, that's right, it is. But then my mom's like, we could use a little bit more arch support and So I think that's just. I think to be able to attract a lot of those like corporations, the shoe would have to be a little bit more technical. Which that's not to say we couldn't do it, but I even think for like these, I was a waitress for 10 years, and I wore all black shoes, and so I have approached many restaurants in Charleston, like the mecca of restaurants, and people like the idea that they want to support a local company that's based out of Charleston, and it's all black, and it can be an industry shoe. It's just a matter of finding that industry that it would connect with, and then the people like. Most of the people that work at restaurants in Charleston are our target demographic, so they think that the shoes are cool anyway. Do you want to work for me? Any other thoughts or stuff? This was great, guys. I'm glad this was chill like